Hello, and welcome to Socially Holistic Podcast. Socially Holistic helps coaches and holistic entrepreneurs and women in heart-centered businesses make sense of social media so they can build their own online network and get more clients. As a heart-centered business owner, you do amazing work. Holly's mission in life is to help you help more people. Help us help more women in business with a 5-star review of this podcast. Please leave one today over at iTunes. The more women who find out about this podcast, the more heart-centered businesses will be successful. Thank you.
Hello and welcome to the Socially Holistic Podcast, episode 55. This is your host, Holly Wharton, and I'm here with today's very special guest, Jodi Chapman from SoulSpeak. Jodi is a best-selling author, blogger, and community builder. Welcome, Jodi.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
I'm so excited to have you on the show because I absolutely love your business and your community and everything that you do, so it's absolutely fabulous to have you here.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. I think we'll be doing a lot of laughing today.
I get that feeling too. So why don't you start out by telling us a little bit about your background and then move into your business journey and how you got to where you are today with SoulSpeak.
That sounds great. Let's see where to start. It's been quite a journey. I'm a huge, huge believer in everything that we've gone through leads us to where we are now. And so even if it's kind of a convoluted path or seems convoluted, it's always exactly the way life was supposed to be. And so with that said, I am living a life now that's completely 100% different than the life I thought I would live. Mm-hmm. Everything is different with it. So I grew up thinking that logic was amazing, which I still think that, but thinking that the left side of my brain was more important than the right. Mm-hmm. And I was a complete skeptic. And if you had told me even 4 years ago that I would be living from my soul and trusting and having that guide everything I do, I would think you were nuts. And so it's just been such a journey. So for me, I started out as an editor, a technical editor. That's what I went to school for, and also sociology. So my whole plan was to be a statistician.
Oh, wow.
And if that didn't work out, I was going to do the editing thing. And so I didn't do that. I actually, the statistician thing, it was much harder for me. I think I liked it better on paper than the actual practice of it. I loved it, but I wasn't that great at it, to be honest. And so it was just a constant struggle. And so in my mind, I thought, this is what I'm meant to do because I thought it looked good. And in my heart, I thought, you're crazy. This isn't fun. So anyway, long story sort of short, I became a technical editor, which was my plan B, and absolutely hated it, but was really excited because it paid the bills and it felt good. You know, I had a career, blah, blah, blah. But I was sort of doing something that went against everything in my soul. I was working for the Department of Defense, and it was when the Iraq War started. And so I had a secret level security clearance, which meant that I got to see these documents about the war and learn things that as a pacifist I really didn't want to know. Mm. And that was really hard. I would go home every day and just sob and think, what am I doing? My soul hurt. It literally hurt, and I didn't even know I had a soul at that point. I just knew that something was really wrong. And so this went on for, I'd say, about 6 months, and I would tell my boyfriend at the time, who's my husband now, I don't know how much longer I can do this, but the security and the paycheck and the career part was bigger than the soul-crushing part, at least right then. Mm-hmm. And then I got in a car accident.
Wow.
And it was like that, boom. Everything in my life changed. And I had heard the whispers. You know, you always hear, I think I heard Oprah say that first, that your soul speaks to you in whispers. Mm-hmm. And then if you don't listen, then sort of knocks a little louder, and then starts throwing bricks.
Then it just knocks you upside the head and says, listen!
Yeah, so I got knocked upside the head with this car accident, and it's not funny, but at the time it wasn't funny, but now looking back, my left hand went out to block, the impact, to sort of brace myself, and I'm left-handed, and so as an editor, I would do everything by hand. And so my hand, I literally couldn't edit. I was out with, physical therapy and everything for a couple of years. I literally couldn't edit. So I thought that was so interesting looking back now. So I had 2 years of lying around, feeling sorry for myself, thinking about what is it that I'm meant to do with my life. And that is what led me to where I am now, in a really long, convoluted way of just having that chance to slow down and stop and think, why am I here? All those big questions that we kind of push under the rug, when we think we're too busy to answer. It was like they were staring me in the face for 2 years, constantly. And I couldn't ignore them anymore. And so my husband and I started a business together because we thought, well, the number one thing is we want to be together. That's really important to me, and thankfully to him. So we started a gift company, and it was okay. I mean, I loved being with him, but we were producing thousands and thousands of things, and that part of it I wasn't really happy about after a few years of that. And so we thought, okay, well, let's just keep, trying something different. Let's just keep shifting and see what feels good. And that's what led us to writing. And as a kid, I always loved to write, but I had that sort of part of my voice that said, you can't make a living at that. Yeah, and I loved to draw pretty pictures and make people feel good, And I just thought, well, no, you have to do something more serious. That's not any way to go through life. How are you going to survive? And so, but that kept coming back to me. And so we started making journals and selling them, usually at craft shows. And people, they had really pretty pictures on the outside, but the inside was completely blank. And people would say, I don't know what to write, I don't know what to say. How do I get started? Yeah, it's too intimidating. I don't know what to do. And so we're both writers, or at least we're aspiring, wanting to be writers at the time. And so we said, oh my gosh, we can do that. We can get you started. And so that's how our Soulful Journal series started, which now we have 13 books, and thankfully they've sold really well, because that started both of our careers, really, just helping people tap into their soul. And along the process, it helped me tap into my own, which has been such a beautiful journey. That's really why I do everything I do. And I love that. So then that led to the blog and just writing more and more. And I felt like I couldn't get it out fast enough. Wow. There was so much inside that wanted to be shared, and none of it was about me, which is kind of a weird thing. Like, my ego was kind of like, hey, hold on a second. But it wasn't. It was this message coming through me. And so I just had to learn to step aside and let it come through. And that's been one of my biggest struggles, is really trusting that. But it's led to so much love and beauty. And that's where I am. So long-winded way of saying, listen to your soul.
Now, you founded Soul Speak in 2011, is that correct?
Yes.
And since then, you have written over 500 articles on your blog. That is impressive.
Thank you. Yeah, like I said, it's just the floodgates are open. It's like a lifetime of wanting to talk and not being able to. And
finally, accepting the fact that it's okay to be a writer and to write these things, and let's just go with the flow and see what happens. Yeah, and really trusting that, because like I said, I was so skeptical. And the stuff that I was writing, after I would write it, I would think, really? Seriously? You're going to say that? And you're going to hit publish, and you're going to post this, and everyone's going to see it?
Yes, and they're going to think you're crazy. They're going to think you're just way out there in la la land. And I had to trust that, yeah, they might. And yes, you might. Like, I might think I'm nuts. But there's some bigger part of me that's saying hit publish. And so a lot of times, even now, if I write a post that's extremely vulnerable or really hitting a nerve, I'll hit publish and then I'll go into bed and pull the covers up. And because I won't let myself take it down because I trust enough to know if it came through, it's supposed to be there.
Wow, I love that.
Yeah.
I've spoken a lot with other very successful bloggers who have actually ended up building a business around their blogs. In particular, Celestine Chua, who was also a guest on this podcast in January. And she said that being vulnerable on her blog was one of the things that really led to her success, because that helped her open up to her community and helped people really, really connect with her.
Yeah. Oh, that's everything.
And I think that's something that so many people find really, really scary because, as you said, you're writing, you don't know who you're writing to sometimes. It's so public, it's so open, everyone can see it. How do you get that courage to hit publish and make yourself put it out there?
Practice. Practice, practice, practice. It's like a muscle. It's a courage muscle. It's not something that I don't think that we're necessarily born with. I think it's just through practice. So for me, it started real with trepidation, where I would kind of like peek through the metaphorical curtains and like, is anybody there? And I think it's good when you're first starting out that you don't have a lot of readers. I mean, for the first year, I wasn't even, it was like crickets,
Yeah.
But that gave me time to kind of hone my craft and see what it is that I really want to say without the pressure of thinking there's thousands and thousands of people reading this.
And it gives you time to find your voice as well.
Yes. When I first started my blog, it was only about the journals. I started it. It wasn't Soul Speak. It was just simply to promote our journals. That's it. There was no deeper part than that. And then when I started writing, something kind of kicked in and I thought, oh, this isn't about the journals at all. This is about something so much deeper. And then the community part kicked in. And I loved that so much that I wanted to build that and nurture that. And so that's part of the trust. That's part of, you don't know where it's going to go. I can't have any idea where it's going to go 2 months from now, much less 2 days from now. I really don't.
So it sounds like it's grown really organically.
Yes, exactly. I didn't have a clear plan at all. I just knew that I was going to show up. And so that's what I'm saying, is just that practice, the consistency, just showing up as often as, I did it every day for almost 8 months. And I wouldn't recommend that necessarily to anybody because it builds sort of a level of stress. But I did that because I wanted to prove to myself that I could follow through. So that was just between me and me. But I think once you do it that often, it's not as scary. And once you see the good that's coming from it, when you're really sharing your truth and people are responding to that and then in turn sharing their truth, because that's what it does. It gives others permission to do that. And so it's so beautiful that's every single person that I talk to now, that's the first thing I say is please, please, please share your voice. Not somebody else's voice, not the voice you think you're supposed to share, but actually your truth. And sometimes it takes a little bit to even figure out what that is.
Yeah, it does. It takes time sometimes.
Yeah, because I think we're so used to having a mask up, and also the fear part of what will they think, what will they say, and, the capital T. And I think that it all washes away when you're consistent and you keep that practice up. At least enough for you to hit publish. Like I said, even now, years later, if I tap into something really vulnerable, I still feel that. But I don't delete it. I keep it up.
I like that. It's feel the fear and post it anyway.
I love that. I love it. If that's not a Facebook poster, I don't know what is. That's great.
So, Jodi, how did your business end up evolving and developing around this blog? Because you went from journals to the community to building all of these things around your blog.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So I went almost a year before I tried to sell anything because I really wanted to build trust. I think that's so important. Really letting your readers know who you are and not trying to, smash something down their throat every second. That was really important to me that I do it that way. And so then I introduced an e-course, which was really, really important. And it went deep within my heart. It was called Coming Back to Life, and it was about my own journey of waking up and really listening to my soul. And I wanted to share that with others because I knew that so many of us were in that sort of dark moment and could use some light and a helping hand. And so I created that course, and that really sort of solidified just for in my mind that I'm on the path, because the response from that was so beautiful and lives were changing, and I could see those aha moments going off in people. It became much bigger than what I thought it was going to be. It wasn't even about the blog anymore. It was about these moments that people were having. And that I kept saying to my husband, these are real lives, This is real. This isn't make-believe. We're not just writing novels, which is amazing when people do that. I mean, he's a fiction writer, but these are real lives that are changing, and that just gives me goosebumps even right now. Because it puts it in perspective. I love when our businesses can truly impact other people, that when we're really living in service and then we see other people's lives change, it's just, this is the sappy moment of the call, but it really, that's why we're here.
Exactly.
And so I think within any of our businesses, no matter what they are, when we have those moments, to really hold on to them, because that's what it's about.
Yeah, I agree. Especially if you've got a heart-centered business and you really kind of tap into, the whole concept of being of service with your business.
Yeah, and I found that the more I tapped into that, I have that written, how can I serve? And I see it every day. And when I start veering off away from that and getting into my ego and wrapping up, because I'm human like everyone else, I'm here on earth. I get wrapped up in those things too. And then when I come back, though, to how can I serve, everything starts to flow again. And I remember, oh yeah, it's not about me. It's not about me. But that's so important for all of us, I think, to remember. It's to be of service.
Now, Jodi, a lot of your work is centered around helping people listen to their soul. Your blog is called Soul Speak. So could you define a little bit about, for people who might not understand what that means because perhaps they haven't tapped into it yet, what does it mean to listen to your soul?
Oh, that's such a good question. I always ask, what does your soul want you to know? And I think that, like I said, if you had asked me that even 4 or 5 years ago, I would have had a blank stare back, so I get it. If somebody's just hearing that for the first time and they're kind of like, what are they even talking about? I was there, so I really know. So for me, it means our inner essence, that part of us that is so wise and just so amazingly connected to everything that is. And it's that part of us that's always knowing and always loving and that has our best interest. And what I love about being human is that we all kind of came here with this beautiful gift inside of us, this soul piece. And we have the opportunity to connect with it at any moment. And I had forgotten that, and a lot of people forget that, but you can remember. And so, it's not like, well, you forgot, that's it, you're done. Too bad for you. And it's several times, in each moment during the day, it's not like you have to set a time limit or something. It has to be 20 minutes in the morning and that's that, It's just coming back to the present moment and really being still. I think stillness is huge. and just really tapping into your inner voice. So if you hear those whispers, that are kind of guiding you along, and you're not quite listening to them, I would just say start by listening and just acknowledging them, maybe to start.
And I think that the more you start listening, the easier it is to listen. It's like you kind of stop pushing them away and start welcoming them more.
I completely agree. And I think that it's kind of like if you slow down, let's just say you're moving super, super, super fast, and everything's just going really fast. How would you ever be able to hear that, And so it's just stopping, even just for one moment, listening, and then you build up, like we were talking about with writing. It's the same thing, the practice of it. And then the whispers, it's like, oh yeah, I know you. I've heard you before. You build a relationship with your soul where you're a team. You're not separate. You're the same. It's just a different part of you, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It does. And it's like finally acknowledging that part of you does exist.
Exactly. And all I know for my own personal experience is that when I wasn't connected with my soul, there was a deep loneliness in me. No matter how much external love I was receiving, it didn't, or how many achievements I had, or how many accolades, none of that mattered. There was this deep, empty spot in my heart. And when I connected with my soul and that light that's inside of me, it went away. I'm no longer alone.
Mm.
And we all have that ability. So that's why it's really why I'm here, is to help people reconnect with that inner light that they all have and just maybe have forgotten.
Ooh, I love that. So, Jodi, what are your top tips on how someone can start listening to what their soul wants them to know?
First of all, slow down, definitely. Stillness is huge, and that's something that I remember. I just wrote about this the other day. I remember a few years ago I was talking to a friend, and she said, because I was just, doing that going thing really well. And she said, I would love for you to be rather than do.
Mm.
And I said, be what? How? And then I said, how do you achieve that? And she first was like, kind of like, oh my God, she's really serious.
She's not joking, is she?
She's not kidding. And then she just started kind of helping me, because it was so foreign. And I think so many of us experience that, where we're the to-do lists are top priority, and how can we get more done in less time, and and I think that it's so important it's sort of a dichotomy, and it's counterintuitive, but it's actually true that when we do stop and connect with that soul, and everything that is, we actually end up being more productive. And it doesn't seem like it's going to work that way, but it really does. So the first thing I would say for sure is slow down. The second thing I would say is start listening, like you said, that once you build that practice of listening to that inner voice, it gets easier. It gets so much easier because you build a relationship with it and you start trusting it.
Mm.
So for me, it was baby steps where I'd listen and then I'd wait and see. Like testing. And so it was, start this blog. This is how you're meant to serve. And okay, well, let's just see. And it was like an experiment. I treated it like a science experiment because that's where I was coming from. And it worked. It was beautiful. And so I don't think you have to jump in both feet first and that's it. I'm listening to my soul and that's it. I think it's slower and baby steps and just kind of test the waters a little bit. And for me, at least, my whole life has changed just in doing that. Just one little step at a time,
I love that.
With regard to, for those listening who do have a business and want to run it as a soul-based business, I have a tip that has worked for me. When I started, I came from a headspace. Mm-hmm. I put in everything, I learned everything that you're supposed to do with business, so I know how to market, I know how to create an opt-in, I know how to do all of that. And I think that's important. But then what I did is I released it all and I let it go. And so it's kind of like, as a writer, I know English, I know grammar, I know syntax.
Mm-hmm.
I know how a sentence is supposed to go. It's supposed to have a noun and a verb. But within that, when I sit down to write, I let that go. And I just write from my soul. And it's the same thing with a business. I think it's good to have the structure, but then I think it's good that's all head-based.
Yeah.
And then drop into your soul and live in that space instead. And I think that to find that balance is crucial.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of, as you said, finding that balance. And I've, for so many years, found it so challenging to get out of my head and connect with myself and listen to my heart. But as you said, a lot of it has to do with stillness and just making the time to listen.
Yeah. And that's it's a practice. It's like a muscle. Mm-hmm. And I think that it's just it doesn't have to be this huge ordeal either. I mean, for me, I mostly connect with my soul through writing. I find that if I don't write every day at least something, I start to feel agitated and disconnected and just like something's off. Mm-hmm. And for other people, it might be that they connect with their soul through taking a walk in the woods or just being still and meditating. And I think we have to find what works for us. But it's like sitting down and saying, hey, I'm here and I love you and you're important. Mm-hmm. And
I think that's important to call out, that there are so many different ways of connecting with your soul, because, there's not just one right way for everyone.
No. And I think it's fun to see what works too. Maybe a month or so ago, every once in a while I go away for a night to a hotel room to just reboot and hit the reset button. And I love that. It's my time with me. And I got this spiral kit. Do you remember those spiral kits from when we were kids?
Yes.
Did you ever have one of those?
Yes.
And I was at the bookstore, and for some reason it was calling out to me, and I got it, and I spent almost the entire night drawing spirals. And it was so much fun, and I was in that space of presence, which is exactly what the soul is. It's when you can be actively awake in the present moment. And I was just drawing my spirals for the entire night, and I can't remember being happier. It was just, I couldn't draw them fast enough. So, I mean, that's just an example of, you don't know what's going to help you feel connected until you try it.
Right. If you had let your head get in the way and say, no, what am I going to buy that for? What is that thing?
Yeah.
I did that when I was a kid. I'm not going to do that now.
Exactly. Like, what, am I 10 years old? Like, but I mean, so yeah, it could be through running if people are runners, or just, there's so many, gardening.
Yes.
Just anything that brings you back to the present moment.
Painting.
Yes, that's a great one.
So, Jodi, you've got so many different offerings on your website. Can you tell us a little bit about how our listeners could benefit from working with you? Because I see that you've got a Soulful Business Tips program, then you're launching your new Soulful Life Sanctuary. Tell us a little bit about what people can find on your website.
Definitely. The Soulful Life Sanctuary is my baby. It's starting on July 1st, and I'm not sure when this is airing, but so it may be open by the time it airs.
Yes, this is going to go live in August, so it will
perfect.
already
so
be.
It's open. And it's something that I've wanted to do for over a year, and I'm so happy that it's finally here, because it kind of combines the connecting with the soul part that I'm so passionate about, but it also combines connecting with others, which is another huge passion of mine, and sharing our services with each other, which is another passion. And so it's all of that. All of my e-courses are included when you join. There's soul guides who are there to help you kind of connect a little deeper in different areas. There's a shop, so if you do have products and services, you can put those in there as a member.
Oh, wow.
You can teach classes.
Wow.
Yeah, so because I know that I'm only one person, and I have, I'm all about the soul. That's my thing. But you have your whole social media and holistic, thing, and I can't teach to that because it's not where I am. And so I love that other people can come in with their expertise and that I can learn and all the other members can learn and we can grow together. It's been, like I said, a dream of mine.
I love that.
Yeah.
It sounds like a huge project.
It is. Like I said, this has been a year behind the scenes of pulling it all together, and my husband has been so amazing. He's done so much with it as well, and so it's kind of a team effort with the two of us. And the soul guides, there's 12 soul guides who are part of it, they each have their own sacred space inside, and it's truly amazing. It is huge, but it's going to be I can't even wait. So within that, there's what I call Soul Shakers, which is something, it's my group that I've been running for the last year. So if anybody wants to work one-on-one with me and also with other people who are reaching their dreams, that's the perfect place because it's powerful. I have seen people in the last year start from not having just a dream, but nothing concrete or tangible, to having a successful website and running a successful business, and we're there to cheer each other on and support each other. It's such a loving space and it's so active. So that's a way that people can definitely work with me as well.
Excellent. Love that. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, me either.
So, Jodi, do you have any women business mentors? Are there any women in business who inspire you?
I would say there are, for sure. I mean, I'm constantly inspired by so many. I think I would say Leonie Dawson, I love what she's been able to do by being herself. Mm-hmm. I'm definitely, all of the people who are in Soul Shakers, there are a couple of guys, it's mostly women, and they inspire me every day just by, like you said in the beginning, how scary it can feel to be vulnerable and to put yourselves out there. Mm-hmm. And when you see them do that, I mean, one woman just the other day had filmed her first video and put it out. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that is huge. As somebody like me who's super shy, mm-hmm. and I'm still working through that. And I never thought I'd be in the public eye because I'm such an introverted, shy person. And then my soul started saying, yes, you will. But I'm inspired by anybody who hears those whispers, mm-hmm. and then takes action and actually, through their fear, does something about it and brings it to life. So I don't want to necessarily say their names because I don't know if they want me to, but I think that just anybody who's doing that, I'm also so inspired by Brene Brown and all that she does. I don't know if you're familiar with her. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and her work on vulnerability is just powerful. So, yeah.
Excellent. Thank you very much for sharing those names. I love Leonie Dawson as well, and I always use her as an example of how powerful it is when you really just allow yourself to express your own personality, just unfiltered, and put it out there, because you'll attract the right tribe for you.
It's so true, and I couldn't be Leonie if I tried. I mean, I don't have that kind of personality. I'm not Leonie. I'm much more me. I'm just, it's different. We're completely different people, but our messages are very similar because all of our messages are very similar. When you get really down to it, we're all sharing the same thing through our own unique voices, and that's why it's extra important to make sure that it's our voice.
Yes.
Yeah, it's so, so true. And I remember, I wish I could remember who told me this, but a few years ago, somebody who I wish I could credit said, she said, the more me I am, the more money I make.
Wow, I love that.
I love that. That gave me goosebumps then, and it does now too, because it's so true. And when you start to veer away from you, the flow starts to stop as well. And I think that when you come back to you, your true essence, the flow, it can't help but flow.
I love that.
Yeah.
Excellent. So, Jodi, where can people find you online if they want to check you out?
So the Soulful Life Sanctuary is just soulfullifesanctuary.com.
Okay.
And then Jodi Chapman, it's JodiChapman.com is my main site and blog.
Excellent. And are you on social media as well?
I am. On Facebook, it's Jodi L. Chapman. And on Twitter, it's Jodi_Chapman.
Perfect. Excellent.
And yeah, if you want to go to my site, at the Jodi Chapman site, there you can download, which I highly recommend if you want to get in touch with your soul. There's a free Reconnecting with Your Soul guided meditation and also a 100 journaling prompts to help you connect to your soul.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
Now, you also have a book coming out fairly soon, the Coming Back to Life book, which tells your story of your spiritual awakening.
I do. I have to.
Has that been put on the back burner with your Soulful Life Sanctuary?
I don't know if you could hear, but my chest tightened and So this is about as vulnerable as I can get, is sharing my actual story,
wow.
Which is pretty out there. And so yes, I finished it, the rough draft of it 2 years ago.
Wow.
And I've been sitting on it ever since. And it's funny, I have messengers such as you every week or so come out and say, and I know that that's my angels kind of tapping my shoulder and saying hello. But yes, it's part of me working through my own fears of still sharing this. So yes, thank you for the reminder.
You're welcome. Well, maybe it just needs to marinate a little bit more.
Yes, that's what we'll say. No, it's funny because I'm so good at procrastinating and then creating these amazing things instead of finishing my book. But I do want to share it. It's just one of those things that, like I said, it's baby steps because I'm on my own journey of working through fear.
Of course.
And it's the most personal thing I could ever put out in the world. And so I'm very excited and also very afraid to share it.
And that's actually really good to hear because you are so vulnerable on your blog and you put so much of yourself and your soul and everything into what you do. And so I think it's really useful for our listeners to hear that, you put so much out there, but there is that one big thing that it's, it's still a little too big for right now.
Oh, good Lord. Yes. And that's what I love about it. You can start wherever you are, and start helping others from wherever you are. I mean, I am by no means at the end of my journey. Mm-hmm. I'm still obviously working through so many things and continue to, but that doesn't mean that you have to wait to start sharing your message.
Yeah, I think that's so important.
Yeah, and I think that it makes you more relatable too.
Yeah, exactly, because you're human.
Exactly, and I'm the first to admit that. And I think that I relate more to people such as Brene and Leonie, who come out and say, I'm not perfect. I never will be perfect. I'm still figuring life out, and I will always be figuring it out. But I have some stuff that I've learned that I really want to share.
Yeah, I think that's so important. Because I think so many people wait for everything to be perfect. And of course, it's never going to be perfect because that doesn't exist. It's
true. And they're waiting, and then they're at the end of their life, and they never said the one thing that they really wanted to share. And the thing that always gets me is, and this is something that my soul said to me a few years ago when I was thinking, I don't really want to do this. I don't really want to go out there and talk to people about this. It's too public. And they said, well, the longer you wait, there are people who really need to hear this message who aren't going to hear it.
Wow.
And and so they said it's kind of selfish. That was tough love, but it worked. It worked. And so I think that for me, anytime I start getting wrapped up in my stuff, I start to think about who am I doing a disservice to by not sharing that.
I think that's so, so important. Jodi, thank you so much for joining us today. I could talk to you all day long, but I'm conscious of time.
Thank you so much for asking me to do this. It's been wonderful.
Thank you so much. And thank you for listening. And remember to visit sociallyholistic.com/SHP55 for the show notes on this episode. Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to the Socially Holistic Podcast with your host, Holly Wharton. Please help us help more women in business by giving us a 5-star review of this podcast. The more women who find out about this podcast, the more successful businesses there will be. So please leave a 5-star review today over at iTunes. Thank you.